About lightning bolts about Azure Functions. Now, this is sort of up to the minute Azure Functions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a demo, and you're not going to see a lot of code, but I'm going to put the code up. So the real interest is I've got to interest you in this, and then if you like it, go and find the code afterwards, and there's some kind of cool stuff if that's what you want to do. But what you need for this is you need Visual Studio 2017 15.3, which is the one that was released this week. So it's pretty new. And the Visual Studio 2017 tools for Azure Functions, which are now part of the Azure Development Tools workload in the product. So you just select Azure Development Tools, and away you go. Okay. As well as that, you're going to need a subscription to Azure. And what I'm using here is I've got a storage, I've got a blob store, I've got a function app, a search service, and a couple of cognitive services. Everything is free in small doses except for the storage, which is cheap. So you still need a subscription, but it doesn't necessarily cost you much to do this. If you actually have a look at the NuGet packages that we're going to be using in this example, you can see really what Azure Azure Functions are. It's web jobs all the way down. So that's really quite telling. The cool thing about this is that the source code for all the Azure Functions stuff and all the extensions that you're going to be able to use, and the kit that lets you build your own extensions, is available on GitHub. So you can go and get the source code, see what it does, debug things that go wrong, or build your own. And if I don't have time, I'll try and put the slide up when I finish the demo. If you want the code, the only thing you really have to remember is end and tiers, T-I-E-R-S. Okay. All right. And now onto a demo. So what we've got here is end this slideshow. We're back to here. Okay. What we've got here is a project that includes an Azure Function. An Azure Function project, and it's got a couple of functions in it, 3 actually. We're only going to look at 2 of them. The first one we're going to look at is text summarization, and it's based on the when you install the workload for Azure, you get the ability to add Azure functions of various types. Okay, this is based off the Blob Trigger template. Now, one thing to notice is that before with Azure Functions, you needed a function.json. We don't need one of those anymore. So there's no function.json. That is actually derived in these modern times from these attributes. So it's the attributes that derive everything, not JSON. The Blob Trigger, it says that we're going to look at in this particular storage account, which is going to be set up in your function app. And here, it's actually set up in local settings. So that's where we're going to go to. So we're going to go to that storage account, and we're going to look at this file spec defines what are the things that are going to trigger this function. It's a blob trigger function, and it just says into this, anything in this container, give me the name and the extension. What you can also do is you can put filters before and after that file spec, but the after filters haven't checked it this week, but last week they weren't working. So what I've done just in the meantime, the suffix filters basically, is I put an if statement that does what a suffix filter would do. What this does is it operates on the documents that are in summarized documents in this container. There's one document already there. Hopefully it's not too old because it's got to do with logs. It actually knows to trigger these the blob trigger from the logs in the blob store. So if it doesn't work, I'll upload another one. And what we can do now is run this. Only one of these functions is working. The second function, I hope, is actually not built. Okay, I'm only building one of the functions. Also, I have this function app is turned off because otherwise it would have just processed those files. So let's run it and see what it does. Hopefully it does something. And so now the function actually runs locally. So we've got this tooling that actually runs the functions locally. It can access all the triggers to all the things out there. It's found that document. It's we don't really care about the images because I didn't tell it to do anything with them. And it's created a summary of it. So if we go back and refresh this, you can see that we've made a summary. Okay, it's good. We've got the top phrases that we found in it plus 10 sentences picked out using an algorithm that is okay but could be smarter, right? This document's not necessarily easily amenable to this kind of summarization, but you know, the code's there so you can see it and you can improve it if you need to. What I've got in this second container is a scanned PDF. So if we open that, I could have opened it locally, but never mind. You can see that there's no actual text in it. It's just an image in a PDF file. And what we're going to do now is turn on the second function. Stop this. We can have more. We can have any number of functions in a function app that we like, or one, or you know, it's really, this is really just the function app is really just how you deploy it. So you know, I can publish this to a particular place. I can have many of them, or one with many functions in it. So let's have a look at the indexing function. It's pretty much the same. Again, it's a blob trigger. It gets triggered off documents in that container. The other one, by the way, it also output to a blob. So it was triggered by a blob and it also outputted a blob. It's kind of useful. This one just finds a blob and then it's going to do interesting things with it. It's going to get the pages out of it. It's going to OCR the pages if it needs to. It's going to get the key phrases and then it's going to stick each page into Azure Search. So let's run this one. So now we're running two functions. It's found that blob. Vision API, I'm calling you over my phone. Wasn't that slow. Okay, so it's done. Now what we can do is we can go into the Azure Search instance and we can go into Search Explorer and find hopefully that document. We can search for Jabberwock in that index. Okay, so it's found it, it's there. We've got the key phrases and we've also got the OCR text out of that document. So that's pretty boring. What you can, just to blow my own trumpet, here's an example of, you know, it's what Azure Functions don't solve all your problems. They don't, you know, you don't build applications in Azure Functions. They're just useful building blocks for doing other things. So this is an application that uses Microsoft Flow, which calls Azure Functions. It uses cognitive services and machine learning. It uses Azure Search. It uses SQL Azure, and it's got a web API on the front of it, and it lets you do kind of really clever things with these documents. Okay, that's all I really need to say about it. So yeah, Azure Functions. If you get the latest 17.3. They've changed, so it's like version 2 of Azure Functions. They're easier to use. The tooling is all included with Visual Studio. It all works really nice. And again, I won't bother to project that. This code, you can find it at GitHub end in tiers in summary. Why would you want to? Well, maybe not for this stuff, because this stuff you can just generate, right? I'm just showing you things that you can generate. What's interesting maybe is the code that's sitting in there that does interesting things with PDF files, with Azure Search, with text analytics, and with the Vision API. Okay, out. And by the way, we're not doing